Every region on the planet has its own climate character. El Nino, a 2 to 7 year reoccurring climate pattern originating from surface temperatures in the Pacific Ocean, causes significant impacts around the planet. However, the severity of these impacts vary from region to region. We posit that communities ready for El Nino are one step closer to being ready for all extreme weather.
Nature is not guilty in these situations. It's not a matter of how strong El Nino could be. It's about how we can deal with this. And this is a political, a social issue in every country, actually.
The El Nino rating nations is to determine what the criteria are for what is El Nino preparedness for various nations.
Learning from the past and seeing if lessons learned have been implemented into sort of preparation for current El Nino events.
Let's look at El Nino ready cities, and let's look at San Diego, and even better, let's look at Tijuana, which is 30 minutes away from San Diego. There
are two twin cities divided by international border with very different number of resources, not only by the economics, but also by social configurations.
The common climate, the common geology, common topography, there's so many things physically that are in common between the two cities.
They're the same hazards, but different social problems and different political issues. So to compare provides us a great way to understand how society deals with climate hazards.
Our field campaign began with a visit to Tijuana, Mexico. There, we visited with a leading team of the city's first responders, Protección Civil. We partook in a roundtable discussion about the strengths and weaknesses of their disaster risk reduction and response strategies. We then toured the city, examining hotspots of impacts. The second element of our campaign was to do the same in San Diego, California. Understand local first responder strategies. There, we met with Lieutenant John Sandmeyer of San Diego Fire and Rescue. He briefed us on their current infrastructure and rescue approaches. Following this, we headed into the field for a closer look at the places that San Diego first responders identified as trouble spots.
We learned a lot. We learned that the same hazard in a different societies maybe produce so many different impacts.
It takes storms backed up on other storms that really create the most workload for us.
In San Diego, I mean, they seem to be very El Nino aware. They seem to be proactive.
The San Diego Lifeguard River Rescue Team is the primary responders for any swift water rescues, also standing water and non-moving water in the city of San Diego. We work with our partners outside the city through the county, and we have a 25-person team. And a lot of we used to have 19, but just this season, with a lot of the focus on El Nino, we expanded the team by 6. When we get a certain levels of water prediction from the National Weather Service for the following 24-hour periods, for example, we get a half-inch prediction, we go into what we call Alert 1 level, and that triggers all the team members to grab their personal gear and have it with them, and then be by their phone and pagers. When it's an inch to an inch and a half, it's Alert 2. That means, okay, now we're going to outfit vehicles, have a plan for who's going in what vehicles and how we're going to deploy if necessary, and maybe send out a scout team to check out some of these low spots. And then if it's over an inch and a half prediction, we'll all come in, we call it Alert 3, that's our highest level. We'll have the whole team come in, outfit, and then pre-deploy into trouble spots in the city.
It seemed like San Diego was quite ready, right? So they had all these plans, binders of plans we talked about. They had run through different drills.
We took it to the next level, where we had to bring in helicopters to evac people. We brought in USAR teams from other areas, urban search and rescue teams, and we talked about closures of streets and how we're going to work with PD and Homeland Security just to note where all the closures were, and if there were going to be evacuations. Now you got to bring in Red Cross. You have to have two types of staging. You have to start staging for all the rescuers and heavy equipment, and you have to start staging for the evacuations and getting people out.
They're quite ready to handle any situation. Whereas I think in Tijuana, what we were seeing is, they're kind of making do with what they had.
You have to produce good climate outlooks. We are checking the atmospheric and oceanic conditions. We are monitoring the ENSO, the El Nino conditions, another kind of oscillation, Pacific Decadal Oscillation, Arctic Oscillation, North Atlantic Oscillation. In the north of Mexico, in all of the north states, we do not have enough information.
It's affecting all decision making. Yeah, that doesn't allow continuity of programs, of actions, of capacity building.
We learned also that institutions do their best as possible with a very limited capacity.
Seem to have some infrastructure in place with, again, the civil protection, the fire department, etc.
It seems like there's a lot of good information that can be used from people that are actually on the ground. I think they are using the community as a resource, and I think it's clever, and it's, if you have it, then you might as well sort of use it to your advantage.
One of the things that we are doing is to go to the people, talk to the people. I think it was about last day of December. Guys from a new app, they come to Tijuana, they come to Protección Civil. In this past rains, we use the app to ask to the people if they are having problems on his street, on his communities. We are using this application user to have a connection with the people.
It gives us a better view of what's going on in the city, complementary to the radar that we consult. Mainly it helps us with the real-time decisions.
Although they might have limited resources, maybe from an outside perspective, it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of complaining, right? So I'm not as used to that. It just seems like in San Diego, you're getting alerts on your phone, split alerts on your phone, cell phones ringing, or you hear it on the news, things like that. So usually it's like the city or somebody else is telling us to be prepared. So it's interesting to see it kind of flipped.
Our study produced interesting results where first responders in the two cities affected by similar climatologies were forced to manage with reducing community risks in different ways. San Diego dials in their methods with technology and training, while Tijuana took to the streets to crowdsource real-time flood conditions when meteorological measurements were otherwise hard to come by. Both teams of first responders were dedicated to their jobs, leveraging, to the best of their abilities, the resources in front of them.